This is the engineered fall, and I wish more could see it clearly. This is Michigan. This is northern Michigan. It's a small maple tree right outside in front of my yard. And I've seen it going on. Knew this was happening that like last year. Fall, the illusion of fall has to be created. Because otherwise it wouldn't be getting cool enough. Can feel the temperature when the sun's coming through, when it's not all, the sky isn't full of gunk, and this is being created. Before I get to rambling, you can see the differences in the leaves. Some are still green, some are yellow, some are burnt, some have holes in them, burnt through, which has been an ongoing thing. The last few days, the last week, about week and a half actually, I've watched this drastic increase in all the spray that comes from the air and ground-based sources, the particulates that go into the air and turn all the air gray to where the fog is at down at ground level where you're breathing it in. Of course, you're breathing it in all the time, no matter how high up it is. It's just now it's so thick at ground level because no one seems to notice or care. But that's full of all kinds of nasty stuff, and you can see what it does to the life itself out there. The trees, the vegetation. You can see the electromagnetic, chemical, and biological attack going on a constant daily basis. You just have to look. These are burnt. They have holes. They've had substances that land on the plants, the plant life, cause funguses, molds, along with the chemicals that burn right through and burn and reflect and amplify the light that's propagated to burn them. Just more examples of the same maple tree, and this is all over, of course. Wholly unnatural change in colors, but it creates the perception for those with a narrow perception that can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. When they look out and they just see this image out there in reality that just correlates to an image of a screen in their mind. They look out and they see all these color changes and they go, oh, it's that time of year. It just must be fall. Pretty colors. Without ever examining, looking close up. Zoom in that perception and look close and go, wait, this isn't natural. You know what? It wasn't natural last year either. Except this year it's even worse. In the year before that, I don't know. It was a lot more natural than the last two. I know that for a fact. I've been watching it change for the last 3. Before that, my perception was too narrow for me to notice anything about myself, let alone the outside world for what it was. Even the pine trees, the evergreens, the needles that don't really change too often unless the tree is dying or something, being affected as well. Of course, that's what happens when there's constant chemical spray and metal particulate spray, and then it's hit repeatedly by these towers that are right outside and they're all over the place. Can watch the lights change from a red blinking light, to inform aircraft and things flying over that, hey, there's a tower there. And then you can see it change from the red flashing light to the white flashing light when they really crank on all those antennas, those weapons, those frequencies, and they irradiate everything in its radius, especially all the metal particulates in the air that allows those signals to propagate as a weapon. Folk try to been telling folk for a bit, me too, but here we are still, and the weapon systems are only increasing. Can see that the multiple layers of stuff, can see it through the layers of stuff, that it goes high, 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 And it's not all from the air. A lot of it is ground-based, sea-based, coming from the ground level, going up, is what I'm saying. Along with plenty that are sprayed overhead, though, of course. Here's an apple tree in the back. 3 years ago, beautiful apples, delicious, ate them right off the tree, which is how I know there's been so much change in the last 3 years. Because last year I could not eat the apples right off the tree because they started to get these different spots. And things were happening. They were growing in a mutated fashion, the apples. And this year it only got exponentially worse. Some of these spots are only on the skin, don't go all the way through. It's like a chemical. It's nasty. Some of the things that land on there, though, burrow in through the skin into the flesh of the apple itself. And when I cut into it, I could see how the black whatever was growing into it. Growing into it. Just more examples, and you can see some of those small black dots. Those are the dots I'm talking about, where something has gone through the skin of the apple, not just discolored it, like some of these weird spots that show up from all of the stuff in the air constantly. So needless to say, if that's happening to the apples in my backyard, it's obviously happening to all of the plants everywhere, because this is happening all across this country and many others. Just another example. And it is an absolute shame. An absolute shame, because that fruit and vegetables, that is the only thing that I consume now that I realize lots of things about how incorrectly we are all indoctrinated and taught as energetic beings here that live in this world together with all this other life in all its forms. Just an example of another one that goes by constantly overhead all the time. Day and night, night and day, at different levels, some very low, some very high. Sometimes you can watch that diffuse spread out pretty quick, and as you can see the patterns from the electromagnetic frequencies being propagated as the weapons propagate them through those towers and all these other devices, like the device in my hand right now. Except it affects everything. All of this life that exists here that did not ask for any of our shenanigans that would destroy their lives as well. Well, their lives are also being destroyed. It's the fall of life because it's an attack, an all-encompassing attack on life itself. That's how the information is taught. That's how the systems are built. That is what money controls when money becomes the belief. When money becomes the one-eyed focus of the consciousness, because the one eye now has the M in front of it, because money took the place of the one eye of the consciousness that was supposed to come together with the perception of reality, with the light it takes in through the eyes, the two eyes that go back to the pineal gland. The pineal gland that's connected to the both left and right hemisphere, that is supposed to take in this light of all spectrums naturally, gain information from it in the consciousness for the consciousness to logically and creatively, the left and the right brain, consider, determine, and reason out. Not act or react to in a taught, believed way based off of false information that had been programmed in. No, it should have been only off of the individual's perception that was not indoctrinated in the first place, so they weren't so disconnected from everything, especially from themselves, inside themselves, which put them outside themselves consciously, so to speak, and empathetically, so to speak. Not so to speak, exactly that, empathetically, because it has chased all of these individuals that are in the system out there out of their heart, the care center of their heart, that intelligent resonance of the heart that is much more than the brain and the consciousness of the brain that is supposed to be used as a tool for the heart to live life, protect life, or nurture life, especially its own life, in a natural way, in harmony with nature and all other lives out there. But once you get chased out of the intelligent resonance of your heart and into the mind, the locked, narrow consciousness that is now only looking for money, that belief in money is the driving force. The heart be damned, empathy be damned, others be damned, even myself be damned if that's my belief, because everything is only materialistic in this world at that point, and that is a false perception, horribly false perception. Every day the same thing seems to only get worse. I don't get it. I don't get it, but at the same time, I absolutely understand how it's gotten to this point due to the programming, due to the vaccination and poison, the poison of our energetic cells from birth, so we could be so malleable and programmed and then kept and maintained in that narrow state of perception and consciousness, devoid of empathy, or at least lacking terribly throughout our lives. And that's how we're turned against each other and all other life. Because the brain is programmed with so many false justifications why an action is right and incorrect or immoral action by the individual, why that is right. Because some belief says so, because someone else said so, because some fake authority somewhere said so. So consider this place being created by something much greater than us would make that God. And if God created this place, who are we to sit there and say we can make all of our own rules, when we can look at the rules of nature itself, natural law, God's law, if you will, or the law of creation. And if you look back through the false teachings of history far enough, you'll see where that did indeed used to be the basis for law, canon law, ecclesiastic law that came before common law, maritime law, all this other stuff. But when you realize that none of those words were necessary in the first place, because nature and life itself doesn't run around with pens and pencils, writing things down, telling each other, hey, this is how you survive together and do things here in nature. Though we can and we could have done it in the right way if information was not so compartmentalized and hidden. Hidden why? For control. Hidden why? To create beliefs. Otherwise that control wouldn't be possible. Because belief is not knowing. If you do not know something, it is a belief. And then you be that lie that you believe in. That's what's happened. And it's a shame. And I just not sure what to say anymore, you know. I don't know. I wanted to say something. So much stuff. that is killing life and our kids. It's poisoning our kids. It's and it's all the aspects of life you want to point to that's been normalized as some kind of normal thing. I mean, there so many things are so corrupted, backwards and inverted. You could talk about it endlessly, it seems. Well, I guess I'll stop this for now. And you know, we just need folk to become aware, of all the control and all the beliefs and all the structures that are there, and just see that, hey, it's broken. And if it's broken, realize it's broken and don't contribute anymore. Live from the heart and care and empathy, and realize that your actions are affecting all other life here. And I used to be one of those folk that just believed in what I was taught from when I was a kid, and I went out in the world and tried to do the right thing. And I ended up being used, it turns out, by the corruption itself. Corrupt administrations, corrupt folk saying, what's right, what's not right, do this because this is what's right to go help. And you know what? It turned me into, I try to do the right thing. I try to be the good guy. And it wasn't until afterwards that I realized I was not a good guy. I was a bad guy. Because in administration somewhere that was controlled by this money, somewhere said, hey, let's go invade this place and mess up this whole place where all these folk are. You know why? Because we want money. And you know what? And now we're going to keep doing it because we've been doing it over and over and over and over and over again. We? Who's we? Anybody that falls under any of these beliefs systems that say, hey, let's go just, invade and kill these folk. Why? Because of reasons. No, that doesn't work. That reasoning does not work once you live from the heart. Once you can find your way back to the heart again in that intelligence and resonance field where language melts away. There is no language that explains these things. You feel these things. You feel this knowledge. You feel it naturally in connection with creation itself and in turn the creator. That's how it works. And I'm being sincere. I really, really am. And I just want things to get better here for all of us, for life itself, because it doesn't have to stay broken. What this is about, all of us and families and our kids and us being able to enjoy life together, all of us, whoever we are, wherever we are. That's what it is, That's what this has to be. This is what this has to turn into. Otherwise, we're already in deep, deep trouble. We really are. As a group, as a species. Okay, so, yeah, I guess I'll stop. Sorry for kind of dark and stuff, but you know what? It's because everything is so dark right now out there. All this talk of war and all this talk of this and that, because it's going on. Why? It can all stop. If everyone would quit with all of their division and all of this, I'm this group, I'm that group, I'm better than you, and I control this and I control that, and I own this and I own that. And what I say is right just because I'm right, because someone has told me I have the fake authority that makes me right Just consider from the heart, please, whoever you are, wherever you are, and then ask others around you to consider the same. Consider reality itself and life itself, and their every breath from their heart, realizing that each and every other thing that takes a breath moment to moment has the same beating heart. They just might be in a little bit different shape than them or form. Maybe see things a little different, perceive things a little different, but we all feel the same. All of us that are experiencing this experience together here, until we move on to the next, when we die or death comes or the end comes, I know for myself, I found when I was 3 years ago in the pit of my own personal internal hell about all of the deception, about reality itself, about what I truly was inside, about everything I had been led to believe that was false, including my name, my birth certificate, my ideas of this group and that group, and this definition and that definition, which I came to find out even the definitions of my words, especially the definitions of my words, were the problem. And they were lies, because I was using words in ways I did not understand. I was using it in ways that they had set up for us to use, to where we constantly cut ourselves down, talk less about ourselves, talk about others as if they're greater than, and all of the meanings and the definitions that we say to a lot of it, not all, but so many, mean things like we're under control, and like we're slaves, and like we're less than, and like we're encased in ice, and that we are beasts, and that we are this and we are that. We were taught to talk about ourselves and each other in such a way as to only reinforce that belief within us, to get us to act in these dark animalistic ways against each other, which, as living, breathing, physical, spiritual beings, we all damn well should have known better whole way through. And unfortunately, I see why I didn't. And it started way before my birth. And when I came into this world with folk that were already going by all these belief systems, and I was indeed poisoned throughout many, many, many years of my life to keep me in that false state, outside myself, in some fractured, fractal pattern of consciousness created by indoctrination, locked out of my own heart, to where I thought I was indeed just another beast too, and there was no such thing as more, no soul, no spirit, no God, because how could there be when you're that disconnected inside, and that toxified inside, and that energetically disconnected inside, and all your patterns of behavior and thought only reinforce that disconnection? That's how you stay locked in that state of constant fight or flight mode. Adrenals don't work right anymore. Cortisol levels are always high, always under stress. The cholesterol builds, the heart pressure builds, everything builds, all the stress inside, because the whole inner energetic environment is out of balance in so many ways. And the consciousness is so out of balance in so many ways. Not centered, not resonating with left and right hemispheres, fully in balance. So as to break out of the slave or master mentality that can be created by an imbalance in either hemisphere. And most of us are trained and taught and created to be imbalanced in both. So we end up with an imbalance.